Hi everyone, welcome back to the Zeller World podcast. Today I have here a very special guest, which is a dear friend. It's Didi from Thailand, and she's actually the Chief Marketing Officer of Freedom Ecosystem that's based in Thailand and also like the Web3 space. So we're all gonna talk about all the exciting things that's happening within the ecosystem, a lot of like Web 2 to Web 3 activities, a lot of grassroots brick and mortar stuff that's happening, and how we can bring, normies or even like people that are not exposed to Web 3 into the chain ecosystem and on chain essentially. So, hi, Didi. Feel free to introduce yourself and also what you're working on.
Hi, Teresa, and hi, all the community there at Cellar. It's such an honor to be here, given how we've known each other for quite some time. So I'm excited to, have some casual conversation about like what we've done in our space and also, I guess exchange some thought leadership stuff, some, pain points like that we go through. Especially as, females in the space, as I guess people also who are focusing on more than just the technical side of things in, the Web3 space. So yeah, excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, happy to have you here. Actually, we're going to talk about exciting stuff, but I do want to start our conversation by actually knowing more about you and your background and how did you first enter the Web3 space. Actually, I'm pretty curious because we never got to talk about it in detail. So, if you can share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation that it's a privilege to have here in the blockchain crypto web3 space because so many are literally born into the space. And I'm someone like me from a previous generation, like I guess a millennial. I definitely have had a very long career prior to joining the blockchain space. I've always been in corporate communications, publicity, marketing. I've represented some global brands, whether that's in aviation, motoring industry, credit card company. I've done fashion. I've done some lifestyle brands, travel, food and beverage, all kinds of things. But I suppose what drew me into the space is the fact that I recognize how like democratizing and revolutionizing the digital asset space can be. I suppose I got here during also like a very interesting time where the entire world was changing, right? So
Yeah.
this was essentially like I met the co-founding team of the Freedom ecosystem, which was originated with Betaza. So
Mm-hmm.
Betaza is a licensed crypto trading platform in Thailand with a brokerage license from the Thailand SEC as well as the Ministry of Finance. So we started there, right? So we were like less than 10 people. And, I had previous relationships with the guys that, are now, the top level management of the ecosystem. When they explained all these things to me, like me as someone who had always been working with consumer brands, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I always felt, there was this gap, almost like inequality, where if you were not already in tech or even investment world, banking and investment world,
Mm-hmm.
you're either in or out, right? And
Yeah.
my whole life, I'd always felt like that was something that was not in my area of expertise. I was quite happy to, either be a corporate employee or work in an agency or even I own my own agency that focused on lifestyle brands for a while. And I was like, well, I'm just not good enough for investment, right? Like my job was to find my like, generate my income, like just live my life, right? And then when the guys told me about investment, I was like, no, I'm good. But when
You're
they
not sure at first.
yeah, but because the idea, I guess, of investment, like when you don't have a background to understand banking industry, when you don't understand the way the world works, how money works, it's
Mm.
almost like the system is designed for it to be that way, for
Yeah.
it to be exclusive. And that's why I guess bankers and like traders and like the traditional finance world, they make so much money because you kind of really have to be qualified to even begin to think about investment. And for
Mhm.
me, when I came on board and actually went through a real consumer journey of like someone who didn't understand to like making my first purchase of Bitcoin, right? And then watching the entire world change. And I was like, you know what? We're all going down. There's a pandemic. I'm stuck at home. If there is a time to explore something new, this is it,
Mm.
right?
It's
So
a good opportunity last time.
yeah. And so to have this application in my own palm, in the palm of my hand, and like how convenient, how seamless it was, I realized like, hey, maybe I stumbled upon something that was going to drive a huge change here. And so from there, Betaza started listing, DeFi tokens. As if
Mm.
you would remember 2020, 21 was like, the DeFi like craze. And for someone like me who, didn't really understand the world of finance, I had to understand DeFi to
Yes.
understand regular finance. And I realized like things started to make so much sense. Um, I think what was helpful for me, so this is a fun fact about me. I'm actually by trade a historian. So
Mhm.
my bachelor degrees was a Bachelor of Arts in History.
Wow.
So what I studied, right, was like the social factors, economics factor, political factors of
Yeah.
each like era of like humanity. And I feel like when I discovered this tech, this
Mhm.
decentralized, this like, the people's currencies, right? Like I challenge myself to think about what made of the idea of nations, or because
Yeah.
previously we were just like civilizations, kingdoms, different systems. So when I stumbled upon this, I genuinely approach it from like a perspective of like, yo, this could be like this modern civilization, except we're all scattered across the world, right? And the more the co-founders explained to me, helped guide me through everything, I was like, so you're telling me we can be in this community with anyone around the world, regardless of gender, race, nationality, language. I woke up.
You're signed up for it.
I signed up and I was like, at first it was a very painful experience
Mm.
when I felt again, right, like kind of not good enough, not financial, like literate enough. I didn't come from banking. I also I was like a pretty low tech person in
Mm.
comparison to the guys in that space. Um, but the more I came in and the more I realized that honestly, that's the majority of the people.
Yeah.
Because not
Agree.
everyone is out here trading stocks, or not everyone's like got this in-depth knowledge of the investment world. And so the best way to communicate with everyone and be the opposite of exclusive is to be inclusive. And
Yes.
that came from like literally me understanding the journey of a consumer from a pedestrian normie perspective, and then to explain it in a way where it's not, the tech bros of the world only understanding a secret language, but I explained it from an outsider's perspective, from the
Uh-huh.
mass. And from there, I realized like, there's an opportunity here where I got to tell people it's okay. Then you don't start by understanding the only way you're going to learn how to do something is to literally just download the app, right? And
Buy your first coin or
Mhm.
whatever.
Exactly. And it's like as opposed to the traditional investment at Betaza, each ticket size is $10.
Mm.
So to like learn by doing um
Yes,
was everything. Yeah. And so that's my little blurb, and I feel like my life changed.
that's good.
Right? My
Looking
life
for
changed.
you.
Yeah, entirely. Like we discovered this new like a theme of a community, new theme of how the future of the world could be,
Mhm.
right? And then when you learn about investment, then you learn about value. And then in
Yes.
history, right? Um and I'm paraphrasing my former CEO on one of the co-founders of
Mhm.
Bataza here, that when you look at, the agreed um mean of exchange of value, the Dutch dominated at one point, and then the British pound, at one point it was sterling silver, and then it was gold, and then America became this powerhouse as it is
Exactly.
today because of that. And then now, this new age, all the different digital currencies is like it's where it's at. So that really changed. And I feel like, obviously, having been here, like, we were operational, like the Bataza Thailand side was operational from 2020 onward. So obviously approaching year 6 now, having seen through all the cycles, right? When you remember DeFi, and then there was
Yeah. It's
yeah,
it's a different narrative right now. It's like
yeah,
a different game.
metaverse.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I'm hooked, and I feel like my job as a supporting function, a storyteller.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
what do we do? How do we explain the different features, the
mhm.
different investment opportunities? If this was like if we were referring to the different tokens as different startups or projects, like what do they do? Why should you invest in them? It's been super fun.
That's very good to hear. Thank you for like the blurb. That's amazing. I think the thing that like really catches my attention was you majored in history, and when you find out, you learn by doing, and when you find out that this Bitcoin can be like the currency of the people, and essentially if you take part of it, you can also be part of the history, right? I think that's what I catch from you, and you'd love to be part of that history, and it's like the essence of this is like an evolution. It's like a change that's like the entire world is it's really happening, and really feeling it right now, because in the past, we had like industrial revolution, and then we had like all those different kind of revolution, but right now we're focusing on really technology. Even like outside of Bitcoin, or even outside of digital currency, we see AI that's taking place, right? That's all happening at the same time, and it's actually digital and technology revolution. So it's really really interesting, and I think I see and stumble upon a lot of people that knows Bitcoin, or even invested in Bitcoin before knowing about like the ecosystem, even knowing before knowing about the technology and what is blockchain essentially. But I think for you, you learn by doing, right? You have to be, be in the ecosystem first, actually doing, and crafting this like special message, and also storytelling on how to approach this finance that's maybe a little bit taboo for like commercial, and even for like women, right? To be in, and also to explore this world. I think it's really amazing to hear that from you. But I want to also move on to the next question. Um, the last time we catch up, Freedom World, there's a lot of activities happening. There's a lot of like activations, campaign. You even had like a music festival, right, in Thailand. I would love to hear, your approach on really tackling like the consumer side and also
Yeah.
the end user side, because typically if we talk about a Web3 ecosystem or even like a dApp or even an exchange, right, which is part of the freedom ecosystem, it's
Right.
just focusing on finance and it's focusing on trading, investing, and so on. But I'm really curious on why do you think approaching, Web2 or even like music, right, for
Mhm.
instance, from your music festival can work for Web3?
Yeah. Thank you. And you know what? The way you recap what I said was just so like spot on. Because I think Bitcoin was like the gateway drug
Mm,
for so many people when we're like, "Ooh, Bitcoin, ooh, digital gold, ooh." But
mhm.
the value there is only because all these people around the world agreed that it has value. Just like,
Exactly.
but then the real fun came when we realized that like all these layer one like networks, all these like
Mhm.
infrastructure layer stuff, you can build stuff on top of it as opposed
Mhm.
to just like Bitcoin. Like, what do you do with gold? Gold is gold. You
Yeah.
put it, in a hardware wallet or vault at a vault or whatever. Um, but then when it comes to like the infrastructure layer and to
The
see the
application of Bitcoin.
application
Mm,
level was when things became even more interesting for me,
exactly.
actually. Um, so I guess like graduating from understanding, Bitcoin and the Ethereum and the stuff that's built on Ethereum, all of this. I guess all those things from the exchange side, they are speculative investments,
Mhm.
right? Like again, it's it's what the mass the psychology about like each project's value. But in terms of having a mobile app, right? So starting out with this easy to use application that does the trading for
Mhm.
cryptocurrency. From there, essentially the team that branched out from just the investment institution,
Mhm.
realizing that having built this really like immersive application, what about if we also built an application that has nothing to do with investments or trading, but essentially giving the people, just like how we gave people like me,
Mhm.
who didn't have a big like purchasing power. Um, what did we also build that at like non-trading, right? So we lower the barrier to entry, and then
Mm.
the birth of the Freedom World application came into place, where we're like, just like trading made easy, this is like Web3 made easy. And
Mhm.
if you ask me, is it really different from any mobile app out there? Not necessarily from the exterior point of view, but essentially this application was made with Web3 or like data owning in mind from the perspective of transactions
Mm.
or the things that happen, all the activities that happen on the app, including this music festival. Then you mentioned every transaction for a water, for a bucket of energy drink and vodka, for,
Mhm.
camping grounds. It's all on chain as well. When people purchase anything, instead of just holding like, a voucher, they held functioning NFT,
Mm.
right? So this application essentially acts as a closed loop, like community token wallet in a way, except this has nothing to do with the outside world. It's basically a food court, like
Mm.
or a casino ship system. So you top up, then you get this. And we got this inspiration from, many existing like global music festivals where it's
Yes.
like you're having your own little currency in your own little music festival world, that this like alternate universe is reality, right? To have this brand of like being able to tokenize your event was a cool idea. But like from there we thought, apart from like transacting value in a closed loop manner, what else could be that, right? So more features got added on. And so we wanted to showcase this, as you said, we didn't just want to, I suppose, offer like something that is similar to what's out there in terms of mobile application where you like
Mhm.
buy points and then go and buy a coffee with the points and then just get reward. We wanted to be immersive about it. So essentially creating this whole music festival with real world stages, with real DJs, with real experiences, and then having this application to be like a tool apart from like just topping up the tokens to spend. There were like things like missions, right? So you like join this community, you bring one friend, you top up
Mhm.
your wallet to spend. You hunt for this mystical creature inside the app, and then you hunt for the QR, and then you come and redeem your reward. So it's this like real world and virtual world, real world, virtual world bridge, which we thought could be something that's quite fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because last time we met, you were talking about like this music festival and then you were able to execute it and then, like even this bull run, we see a lot of narrative is built around RWA, and in a case where I think what you're doing with the music festival and then this freedom world ecosystem is to really bring like all the immersive activities that's happening on chain also off chain, right? Basically, like happening in the real world. And I think you also mentioned a good point where, you know, lowering the barrier of entry is necessary in the Web3 space because, coming from also a non tech background, non Web3 background, I was always in sales and like a bit of marketing. Basically, to understand Web3 is quite hard. And especially if you have to learn all the tools that's needed, right? And that's even coming from us, which is, we do have like, we're actually kind of forced to do that because we work around the space, we kind of have to like learn and stuff. But the goal of like projects, even the goal of exchanges, is really to reach out to the mass, right? To reach out to like the non Web3 native people. So I think lowering the barrier of entry is really necessary, as what you mentioned. And coming from like marketing perspective, I believe you have a lot of plans for that. So, what other plans for our freedom world actually that if you can share, that's really encouraging more and more people to be more aware of like this thing called Web3 or even like the application of closed loop loyalty base that's also connected with like the crypto space.
Right. You brought up a really good point, and it's always comforting, and we've known this about each other, but just to share with the audience here that I think like when we connected, it was from the perspective of, when we think of taste making, right?
Hmm.
Marketing, understanding consumer behavior, understanding the culture, understanding the vibe. And I feel like this essentially is what makes the Web3 space so different
Mm-hmm.
from, the old tech world. Because when you, okay, first of all, when you think about the tech bros, most of the time they're all like gathered in several like
I
places,
know.
mostly in the West, right? And then most of the time, they're I mean they're in the West, and most of the time they're also males. Uh
Mm-hmm.
and so when you think about like how that is changing thanks to Web3, like all the amazing creators coming out of like all kinds of backgrounds, race, nationalities, generation, language, and like just how no one cares what
Mm-hmm.
you look like, what age you are, and like this collaborative, like just sharing everything. Because I think what we've realized, I guess, in the Web3 world is that the space is so new and everyone plays different parts in the
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem that you are not going to become the only centralized system But let's say you do the one thing that you're the expert of and you collab with someone else that's an expert of something else. That's how we drive this new tech forward. So you mentioned marketing, and I think that both of us, as passionate and invested social media users, right? One of
Mm-hmm.
the things that really stood out, and like I mentioned, I'm Gen Y. I'm from the Gen Y and millennial. I've been here since like literal like MySpace, right? And then MySpace died, and a lot of good music, a lot of good data went down with the platform,
Ooh.
right? And then moving on to Meta, Facebook, right? And I know for a fact that the user demographic is also leaning towards an older generation because obviously Instagram took over a little bit. Even though okay, fine, now like they're married, now they share the same whatever, but then now TikTok has come.
Yeah.
And witnessing what's happening now with TikTok and like I guess regulators, one day when someone else comes in and say, "Hey, we're shutting this down,"
Yeah.
or the owner of the platform says, "Okay, we're gonna shut it down." Who owns the data? No one, right? Everybody just goes down together. So this idea of Web 2 or Web 3, in my opinion, it's just a matter of owning your own data, right? And so this, I guess, was one of the things that stood out to us where we speak about Web 1, like it's just library.
Yeah.
Web 2, it's interaction, oh, social media. And Web 3 is all of us just owning our own stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was what like really drove all of us in terms of like where do we go next with becoming a consumer application that highlights the community building perspective, because the only thing that drives Web 3 forward is this community element.
Exactly.
Mm,
I totally agree with that. I think, Web3 is really the single industry that I feel welcome, even as a newbie, as a beginner, because almost every single project is run by a community. Like each of them has their own community, has their own like um players, right? And it's so decentralized. Like sometimes, when the time in the last cycle we were talking about DAOs and everything, it's just
really.
run by like a community with no centralized, with no one moving the dial without a consensus of the community, right? It's so important, and that's like the heart of Web3 essentially, because even if we're talking about just like the single token, even some of it is run by community, right? We see meme coins like Pepe, like Doge, like what's the real use case, right? It's all community. So it's really, really important. And I see where you're also heading, Freedom World, and also like um all the essential things that you're doing with the company towards like giving back to the community and so on. So I want to know your opinion on like how do you build, I mean, since everyone is also like building different communities, uh what is your stand on like, how to build like really a really interesting community and the one that sticks out among all the other communities within Web3?
Mm, so I think one thing that I can comment in terms of the Freedom World like roadmap, I
Mm-hmm.
think number one, like we mentioned, being the bridge, right? Between someone that is already kind of familiar with the idea of e-commerce or fintech. So they're using the app without knowing it's Web 2 or Web 3. Like they don't
Mm.
really need to understand, except when they see the importance of like transactions that are on chain, the data on chain, or the
Yeah.
storage of what they hold that's on chain. You can't tweak that, you can't cheat that. The identification, the transparency, like this is always going to be our thing. But I think Freedom World's direction is to again to showcase more use case than just transaction of value. So there has been then addition of features, whether that's like like kind of engagement features like almost social media, like
Hmm.
you know group chats or push notification of like, you know, uh, blog post feed and things like that, as well as integrated almost e-commerce functionality into the Freedom World application so that someone like us, when let's say we're not from the space, but we would like to start a business. Let's say if I'm like, a content creator, or if
Yeah.
I own a little shoe shop and, instead of going on different like apps to do different things, one for social media, one for value transaction, I just go to the one place. So that's always going to be like, I guess our goal is to bridge these people to see the value of Web3. So like let's say mass
Mhm.
adoption. But I guess just now you also mentioned like what would be our take on building community. I think we've witnessed, like we mentioned just now, right? We've seen the rise, well, not fall, but like the bubble bursting a little bit of DeFi,
Yeah.
GameFi, play to earn, metaverse, layer one. And we realized that potentially, in our own diagnosis of the situation was that because all of these different metaverses, all of these different communities were not interconnected,
Mhm.
right? You would have to like lock in and lock out of different wallets,
Exactly.
different platforms. So that's why for us, we instead of building things from the infrastructure layer, as opposed to building our own blockchain or anything complicated, we built something that's on an application layer so that people come in and kind of like understand. So the communities that we work with are actually non Web3, non crypto. They are like small SMEs. They
Mhm.
are, event owners. They are, ferry transits. There's some golfing, driving range in Bangkok.
Mm.
So they're all just typical businesses just wanting to reach out and engage with their followers and then own their data with like no risk of the platform going down, like when MySpace died and
Yeah.
then a lot of artists lost their actual music because they didn't own
That's
anything.
crazy.
Mm. So that's something that we recognize, and then we also witnessed the rise and fall of the first wave of the GameFi
Yeah.
movement, right? Play to earn. So
Yes.
we thought, why not integrate something that it kind of paid respect to that by you know essentially incentivizing the users to switch from like the real world. So this bridge we spoke about, um on our app there's a functionality to discover businesses that are using the Freedom World application around you, coffee shops, cookie shops, bars. Or if you're not in the mood to go and support these businesses, you can use the app as a portal to go into a different dimension, this virtual world, and
Mhm.
then play this game that is like geolocation. So what it is like a monster hunt, right?
Like
So
Pokemon
sure.
Go?
Sorry.
Is it like Pokemon Go?
It's very Pokemon Go-esque. It's Pokemon
Okay.
Go inspired, right? So you turn on the location, you see the monsters around you, go and battle them in a card game, and
Mm.
then you get the, in-app on-chain rewards. And then like people just like the first wave of GameFi again. What would happen back in the day would be you could earn these um tokens in the game and then you like list
Yes.
them and then you get fiat out, right? But the problem about that is where was the money coming from? Right? So when you
Exactly.
attack the in-game currency to like direct fiat like trading, let's not name names here, but we know the games that would have the on-chain in-game currencies that would be able to like trade outside. But
Yes.
then if the gameplay or the development or the expansion of the ecosystem is not fast as the consumers demand, then what peaks then comes down. So
Mm.
we realized this, and so whether you play the game on Freedom World, whether you support our, like, the merchants, the communities that are part of the ecosystem, instead of earning something that you sell right away, you earn this like on chain, like in app, like metaverse credits, and the credits
Yeah.
can then be redeemed for goodies, whether they're on like in real like IRL goodies, like cookies and coffee and
Mhm.
like a laptop, or you can use that for, benefits that are inside the application itself. So all of it is very, like, we hope that it's quite immersive so that the value we built is a long-term value.
Yes.
And we're trying to call this like a proof of commitment.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, to see the full suite of product that's you're trying to like move and push forward for Freedom World, right? Even like putting in gamifications, really learning from what has been happening and what has happened before uh you during the GameFi period and so on, and really making something that's more sustainable, but also putting together all the different parties, from all the shop owners, the merchants, something that we can actually experience real world. I think that's a really really good angle because I mean, just reflecting on our side and also the partners that we've worked with, some of the gaming companies that's integrated with us and partnered with us, they're also trying to get, even the real life merchants, all the coffee shops, the restaurants, that can get like benefits and rewards from like playing their games, right? From interacting within the ecosystem. And I think from the Zeller side perspective, that's what we're also trying to tackle. As being an infrastructure player, we want to enable dapps, we want to enable ecosystem like yours, right, to be like the first gate and first entry point on how these users feels like when they enter the ecosystem, and to not feel like it's another Web3, or it's like a very very alien application and alien, um basically, uh, user experience, right? We want to make it as web 2 as possible. And then I think that's what have been happening within the crypto space in general. Even more and more projects are making like chain abstraction features like what we do as well, which is basically removing the gas fees from the users if they do an on-chain transaction, because it's a whole lot of learning, to be able to understand how to trade gas fees, to trade like on-chain items, to even sign into a MetaMask. It's a whole lot of learning, and I believe you also experience that as well. So I think just on to the last question for you. Within the crypto industry, I really want to know your opinion on like the next 6 to 12 months of the crypto space, because I think the last week we've seen a lot of people actually doubting that if the bull run ever gonna happen. Market dumping, all the correction happening, even after Trump gets elected, right? So I really want to know what you think of like the next 6 to 12 months, whether there's gonna be a bull run or even like an out season. So what's your take on that?
Obviously, like my opinion expressed here is, an individual opinion, not a financial advice. Actually, I feel like if, some of the audience or even yourself, like if we've been here for quite some time, we've witnessed several different cycles already. And I feel like, what happened in 2017, 18, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously with the like COVID being the accelerator, I feel that what happened during COVID was unprecedented. So this like bubble, getting super big during those years, it's not going to happen again because I mean, God forbid, another pandemic comes, right? And then
Please
government
no.
starts giving helicopter money again, then sure. But apart from that, like I feel like all of this craze, this wave that happened, the overstimulated market just came from a very unprecedented time in like human history. So if we are sitting here like, waiting for that type of bull run again where like, it just went crazy, like 10x, 20x, 30x, like this crazy craze. I don't think that will happen anymore. But I feel like right now, essentially, just like any industry, right? When there is a big, huge craze, what happens from there is the filtering system.
Mm.
When you think about the internet era, like the .com era, like the late 1990s, which you were not born yet, I was. I'm gonna say, right, like you saw so many internet companies or people attaching internet into their regular business for
Yes.
no reason, just to say, we're not a part of the .com. What happened from there was use case. The only companies that, survived and
Mm.
thrived were the companies that had use cases, whether that would be a library or index finding information, whether that would be e-commerce. Literally, right? Like the big,
Yeah.
big brands that are
Like
dominating the market.
Amazon and stuff.
100%, like they started there, and then they
Yes.
evolve with time, and that is all use case.
Yeah.
Real value comes from when the people see actual utilities that come from the tech, not these, kind of like just random whatever.com, whatever, uh, uh, random websites that like happens. So I feel that um it's the same thing for this new tech, right? It's Web3. Unless there's use case, real value is not going to happen. Obviously, we've seen, as you said, this also unprecedented like meme
Mm.
phenomena.
Yes.
Did I ever think that I would arrive in this space and see, all these, again, decentralized finance and then game finances, guilds, right? This relationship between the gamers and the funders and all of this, all of the things, trading of, expensive mystic creatures. Then from there, all these layer ones, all the networks, all of them, but not connecting. And it's like building an island with no bridge. And you're like, oh no, I'm just here by myself. Oh no. Then memes happen. I feel like this meme craze is like almost the answer to all this really complex stuff that has happened in the space. Meme is just, hello, we are here, let's make money, right?
Exactly.
Right?
That's it. Yeah.
Like Pepe, like we love Pepe. He's funny, like who, like or Peanut the squirrel, like
Even
the
Trump. Trump. Huh.
exactly. Never in my life would I have imagined the literal country that holds the most power and the person in the highest power
Yeah.
launch his
Number one
own
person.
meme. Hello, like I'm just so here for it, right? So I feel that in itself would also correct itself, right?
Mm.
With
Mm.
too much of something, it goes up and it comes down.
Yes.
So I think from here, it's use case, use case, use case. So I would be, I guess, monitoring, like still layer ones, but the layer ones that have applications, right? And the layer ones that
Mm.
also are more open and more inclusive, and
Yes.
so it can do meme, they can do DeFi, they can do maybe the whole metaverse NFT thing comes back, who knows, right? But essentially, I think interoperability, right? And the on like the multi-chain, and you mentioned this yourself, and having spoken with you, Seller as the infrastructure partner of so many different people, making things simple,
Mm.
making things inclusive, and then create this like togetherness, I feel uh will be, I think, the future of what sticks.
Yes.
That's just coming from a perspective of, I think, a collaborative mindset. And anyone that I feel like the networks, or the chains that are too technical, that are like making it almost difficult for people to like sort
There
course,
are those chairs. I know.
then you kind of become unapproachable. I don't
Mm.
know. So that's my personal opinion. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from here. But you mentioned AI.
AI, yes.
Yeah, and I think that like that's also such a trend, but then we have to be mindful of like what's the buzzword that's again getting thrown in the mix to throw people off.
Yes, because there's so many AI agents. That's like that's a new narrative, and like I totally agree because it can be a bubble, and it works. It's replicated already time to time, not just like crypto market. We were talking about just like retail and price action. Everything's a bubble, you were talking about like dot com. I read that a lot, like the dot com bubble. So everything is just like a jargon, right? It's just like an icing, like everything with like internet. I think that's what's happening here within even the Web3 space. Um, we don't have to talk about the Web2 space, but even just focusing on the Web3 space, people are putting icing, and this icing is like AI, is like all those like different meme coins. And they forget to sometimes learn about like how do you actually deliver a real product and a real solution
Hmm.
to like the people, right? I think that's what sticks at the end. And usually what happens is we see project that sticks after the bear market and see, oh, okay, these are the project that's really, providing value for people, not just like some momentarily gain,
Mm.
right, for the benefits of its own founders and so on. So I totally agree with that. But hopefully, I still want to see like a very top of the bull run.
Look,
Still very positive for that.
who knows? Who would have imagined, like through thick and thin, like like the grandpa token Bitcoin, right? Like at this point,
Yeah,
she's been here, she's retired, but like hello, like it's still all time high, right?
yeah.
And
Grandpa token. I love that.
and all this, all the institutional players coming in, the governmental supports
Hmm.
are sometimes the opposite. Like the banning actually makes a little like ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
you know. So obviously, I think geopolitical factors also matter. Um, and I guess the projects that have survived all these different cycles, they're kind of like proving themselves to be still here, still relevant. Obviously you were here, I was here, like for DEF CON and seeing something of this, like, the whole Ethereum religion. It became a philosophy. Less so right? So when that becomes a part of everyday life, the language we speak, like what like the implications and the context, the content and the context of the network, the infrastructure, then it becomes like in part of conversation of like how where does this project fit in everyday life, on chain, off chain, everything. So I feel like I'm excited to see, what other challengers are out there and who's gonna survive. But I think I'm still here. Like even though I appear as like, an institutional person, I'm still low key and low degen.
Of course, everyone needs to be a DJ here.
I love it. And like, to see a silly token like Mudeng
Yeah, wooding.
representing our hippopotamus, and we saw that and
It's a
from the
Thai represent. Mudang
correct.
is like representing Thai society.
Correct. So like, let the meme guys live. Let it be, and like, let it be the gateway drug that used to be Bitcoin, like so scarce, so expensive, and now it memes. Like if this leads people into the space and opens the mind, and
Mm,
hopefully, you know, not too many lose too much, but like, it's a zero sum game as well. Like for someone to win, someone has to lose. So
yeah,
obviously, like everything has to be done with caution. Like you could lose with Bitcoin, you could lose with memes. Like it's
yeah,
just knowing when to enter, when to exit, right? And
yeah.
so I think like with that, I feel like you asked before, like, in terms of my opinion, I will also mention to you, right? Just like how right now it's the age of information.
Hmm.
We all have access to so much knowledge. I feel like before you make any important like livelihood decision, like an investment, research, right? Like don't just go and follow some some tweet.
Always Dior.
Exactly. Like, if something seems too good to be true, 100% of the time it is. And like I feel like, this talk of the institutional players, the big, investing firms are being, and we are the retail investors, and oftentimes we are being like string along to
Yes.
make decisions so that the big guys can make money. Like,
100%.
didn't we leave traditional world so that we could have a little bit more, like, more even playing field? So I feel like then we have to have conscience, right? Like, let's remember why we're here, right?
Mm,
Which is not to run around and follow the system that they designed for us to
mm.
follow. So if that's the case, like I feel like just question everything, right? Just question everything. Just research.
Always Dior and like everything you see on the internet, it's not enough financial advice. Don't be FOMO as well. That's what I always tell people.
Correct.
Because like yeah, it's so information travels really easy right now, especially with like if it touches money, you know, a lot of even like all the legit coins, they have like a shady counterpart of it, right? So really, really have to. I mean, like for the audience here, if you're like a beginner and or start off like new to crypto, I think really need to like do a lot of research and see what are the best platforms to invest in because it's like your money, right? It could be gone
Yeah.
in a second.
And I could understanding also the cryptocurrency trading side for money, and then like people like seller, right? People like
Mhm.
freedom world, the non-speculative, the
Mm.
product building, the kind of like this synchronization of other things. I think when someone understands that, like within the crypto space or blockchain or Web3 space, there's so much more than just cryptocurrency trading,
Yes,
right?
100%.
All these like actual applications, infrastructure layer, network layer, node, all this. Like, I think spending time to understand who is doing what and looking at the value they bring, the contribution that they make to the space, the partners they have, the integration they make, with real world value, right? Because we can all be here and run this like, future, like the year 3000.
Mm.
But if no one has access to it, it's just
Yes.
gonna be like just us, thousand,
All the
maybe
Web3
2,000
degens.
just us, like literally just us. But so I feel like the newbies, when you look at the track record of any team,
Mm.
right? Understand like the steps that the team members, the team like founders and what they've done before, like
Yes,
previous
exactly.
experience, like previous things built, like whether or not they're like, Web3, I feel like that's something that would be an indicator of to see someone's intentions. Are they here to just build a coin and just launch for money? Or, are they just like building real products, like seller, like Freedom World, for example. So I think that's really
Agree.
important.
Agree. That's really, really good point. That's a really good point actually because like a lot of the we call it docs and undocs. A lot of like the projects are like not they want to be undocs because sometimes to remain anonymous, but it's really difficult to be like a huge project and you as a founder remain undocs, right? You kind of have to show your background, your face, and what's your intention, kind of like showing your intention and how you're planning to actually provide value for the ecosystem. So I think thank you so much, Didi. It's been like almost an hour of talking and we feel like we need a part 2. Hopefully we can do that. But anyways, if you want to know more about Vitaza, about Freedom World, I'll also tag all the details, the links, the accounts, socials, and everything within this podcast. And anyone who's interested to learn more about Zeller and how we can work together, I'll also link that down below and basically in the description box, wherever here in the podcast, so you can see our details. So thank you so much, Didi. Really nice talking to you.
Thank
Thank you
you
for
for
your
having
insights.
me. Thank you. And again, I feel like I'm so happy that you reached out. I'm excited to learn more about, what Seller's doing and all your ecosystem and ours. And if there's an opportunity to collab, that'd be amazing. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.